Joined now by former Ohio State NFL linebacker Bobby Carpenter. You hear him on 97.1 The Fan Morning Juice every morning, 6 to 9 a.m. And Bobby, Justin Fields, first Buckeye taken, first round, 11th pick. Did it surprise you that he did drop?
You know, when they start talking about dropping, you know, I think people thought a lot of times, and I was one of those guys included, I thought he was the second best player in the draft, second best quarterback. See Zach Wilson go ahead of him. I think that was kind of baked in. Everybody thought that was going to be the case. I never really bought the Mac Jones to San Francisco because based upon what they want to do with their offense, to me, I either thought it was Trey Lance or Justin Fields. And so they go with Trey Lance. And I was surprised that it took to 11 potentially for someone to trade up. But I saw some of those teams. You had New England, you had Chicago sitting back there, the teens and 20s. It's like, okay, once you slip past 10, now you're getting some great value. And so, you know, falling is relative. He went to a place that they're going to do everything they can to win with him right now because it's going to be very important. And I think they got themselves a heck of a young quarterback in Justin Fields.
You know, Bobby, the NFL, it's a business. It's a job. And, you know, when you're the first, second, third, whatever pick, you're going to make a lot of money. With that said, we heard a lot of things coming out prior to the draft. First, it was leaked out that he wasn't a hard worker and not a good student in the classroom. And, of course, we saw Ryan Day come to his defense and say that's not true. Then all of a sudden, which I think is just terrible, that they leaked out that he was epileptic. I mean, that's terrible. I mean, is there no HIPAA? I mean, I just want to know, why did all that stuff happen? And I don't know, why would teams do that stuff?
Well, you know, the one thing on the field stuff is one thing. You want to talk about guys' performance on the field, that's okay. Everybody can see it. You have injury-related stuff that's on the field, Dom. I understand that. Guy's got a knee, saw him hurt his knee, that applies. You know, the epilepsy and things like that, I had a serious problem with that because that's a condition that he was born with that no one knew about, that had no impact on his performance at all. So the fact that people were talking about it publicly did have issue with that. Obviously, you saw Coach Day come to his defense earlier about some of the work ethic, which I never saw any of that. But I'll say this, there's kind of two philosophies here on why this stuff could come out. Number one, you're a team that's maybe later. Heck, maybe it was Ryan, and I joked with Brandon Beam on the Morning Juice about, hey, maybe it's your guy Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace pushing this out here so that he'll fall down and they'd have a chance to get him. And, you know, and I don't know if there's any truth to that at all. It's just sheer speculation and kind of almost a little tongue-in-cheek joking, but, you know, teams potentially do that so a guy will fall. The other thing, and I think that there is some reality to this too, is I think that there was a huge clamoring from the San Francisco 49ers fan base to take Justin Fields. I think they wanted Trey Lance all along. And so this was an effort to maybe push some of these things out here to try to quell their fan base and give them some reasons of, hey, without us overtly saying that we're taking Trey Lance and this is why we like him, here's some things about Justin Fields that maybe you don't quite enjoy as much.
You know, the league, not everyone gets there. Most people don't get there. Ohio State had 10 guys drafted. Alabama had 10 guys drafted. By the way, they played for the national title. Sound about right?
That's kind of how it is. And if you look at recruiting, they recruit really good players. Those teams are in the top 5. Clemson's in the top 5, LSU, Georgia, like a lot of these familiar teams. And then they seem to get a lot of guys drafted. And so what it tells me is Ohio State recruits really well. They develop the guys on the field really well from a team perspective, but then they're also developing them individually. And one of the nice things about the Ohio State guys is you don't really hear any character. You don't hear any off the field stuff. And you know, there wasn't always a time maybe when that was the case. And Jim Tressel did a pretty good job. Urban's carried that on, and Ryan Day, they've really been selective of the elite players they bring in. So yeah, you have 10 guys go and only one in the first round, which people at Ohio State now kind of scratch their heads, but you know, you had 5 go on the first day. You felt pretty good about that. Josh Myers taking over for Corey Lindsey with the Packers. Like, you couldn't ask for a better fit. I thought Pete Warner going to the Saints, great fit for him. And every scout I talked to told me this guy's going in the second round. He's going to go in the second round, and people are going to be really happy with him for a decade. So awesome to see those guys kind of come through that half of it and kind of sneak in there when maybe people didn't expect them to.
Yeah, Pete Warner, you hear things about him, great cover linebacker. You hear the same thing about Baron Browning. We thought he was projected as a late first, maybe second rounder. We just visited with him. Surprised you to see him go last player taken in the third round.
I was really happy. I'm sitting there watching, and I was wanting to turn that thing off, Dom. These drafts go so late now, and I'm just hanging around, and I was really pumped to see him go right there at the end. I think Denver's a good spot with Vic Fangio and what they want to do with that defense. Barron's got a tremendous upside. People all know about that. There were some injury issues, and there's some things that he does better than others, and then he also has some things that he needs to work on a little bit. And so I think teams looked at him, huge upside. Maybe not someone you want to draft, first, mid second, but then all of a sudden you slip in the third and you start seeing tremendous value there for a guy that's explosive, can rush off the edge, maybe kind of learn a little bit off Von Miller and be a nice, strong physical edge presence. So, you hear a lot of the speculation of where guys are going to go. None of the people usually talking own a pick in the draft, Dom. They're not one of the 32 teams. So I try to listen to those guys a little bit more, watch the film, and then kind of make my assessments based on that.
All right, the Brownies take Tommy Togiai in the 4th round. I love that. I think he is a throwback. He's going to fit in so well up at Cleveland, and I think this guy's going to be a superstar up there, Bobby.
I think he's going to fit in really well, Dom. They released Sean Richardson this offseason. Maybe they bring him back, but they want to get younger. They want to get physical on the inside. Tommy Togiai, not the biggest guy in the world, but incredibly stout, very, very strong. He has a great identity. And finally, Dom, all this time we've been waiting for the Cleveland Browns to start bringing in some Ohio State Buckeyes. So you got to wait no longer. They finally were able to get him with Tommy Togiai up there in the 4th. And I really thought that was a great value pick. Another guy that probably could have went somewhere late 2nd, 3rd, available in the 4th. You see that Browns front office doing a great job with scouting and finding value.
Shaun Wade taken in the 5th round. Did he hurt himself coming back? Because coming out of last year, a lot of people were saying he could have been a 1st rounder.
I think he may have hurt himself a little bit when you look at this, coming back. And one of the things people don't know, he's battling some injury stuff this season. He didn't really have a spring ball to work outside. They had a disjointed camp. I think obviously if he goes last year, he's probably a 2nd round pick, maybe into the 1st, but probably 2nd, high 3rd. So he didn't have some great film. I'm convinced of this though. I think Shaun Wade is going to be one heck of a pro. I like the defensive situation that he went to. They're going to start him inside, move him around, strong safety, slot nickel, and do some of those things. So I think he'll really, really hit the ground running and have some success. And, a lot of times it's not always where you start. It's where you finish with this. So I know Shaun, financially it probably wasn't great for him, but I do think that this will ultimately benefit him in the long run.
Urban Meyer as well as anyone. Great his first NFL draft. No big surprise that he took Trevor Lawrence. I mean, everyone knew that. Took another Clemson guy. Only one Buckeye, Luke Farrell. I thought he might take a couple Buckeyes.
You thought they might, and I could have seen him maybe trying to snag, Wyatt Davis or someone in there. And here's the thing, you got to try to find value. He could get Luke Farrell there at the top of the 5th. Another guy who can come in, set the tone. He's a good blocker. He's good in obviously the receiving game as well. It's tough because I think Urban would have tried to take them all, but you got to listen to your scouting department. Make sure you're getting guys at the right places and not just trying to get the guys that you want, making sure you have good value there. But I thought Urban and the Jags had a really solid draft. It's going to be a good core of players for them. And they developed, if you look at the guys they drafted, I think all of them have pretty high, football IQs and high character IQs as well. Like they're solid human beings. And that's the type of program that he's going to want to build down there in Duval County.
Certainly Urban started, Jim Tressel started, Coop started. I mean, Ohio State it just goes, and you look at the great players that come here. But what does a draft like Ryan Day just had do for Ohio State's program going forward?
Well, it's a chance for Ryan Day to be the first Ohio State coach to really have developed a quarterback that can be successful in the NFL. And, hopefully Dwayne Haskins is able to get it going with Pittsburgh, but a 1st round quarterback, a guy that's taken just outside of the top 10 to a premier franchise in the Big Ten footprint with the Chicago Bears. They're going to have a lot of wide receivers that are coming out, but he can also now go and recruit these elite quarterbacks and say, look what I can do for you. I've had 2 guys go in the 1st, and hopefully Justin Fields is going to become a superstar. So he's just kind of carrying this on. They're having the production on the field. Now, Dom, all he has to do is do what his 2 predecessors did and find a way to win a national championship.